Bizarre Brain Comics. Hello and welcome to Bizarre Brain Comics. I'm Gary, your host. This is where I like to take a look at some older comics. Talk about the characters and creators, and examine the stories and the art. This one we're going to talk about today is from DC Comics. It's Adventure Comics number 487, featuring Dial H for Hero. And if you're unfamiliar with that, you say, what the heck is that? That sounds weird. No, it is kind of strange. Unconventional. This is from 1981. And and I never read a whole lot, but it has some kind of fun ideas in it. So let's see what I've got in the big book of knowledge. Okay, Adventure Comics. Number 487, 1981. Dial H for Hero. This issue, and most of them has two stories in it. One longer main story, and then a shorter backup story. And the first story was written by Marv Wolfman and drawn by Carmine Infantino. And the second story was written by George Kashdan and drawn by Don Heck. Okay, and Dial H for Hero. It's a feature from DC Comics about a magical dial which enables ordinary people to become a superhero for about an hour. To become empowered, the individual dials HERO, and the dialer becomes a superhero. Each time is a different character and with different powers, and created by the readers. Initially, it wasn't created by the readers, but in this 80s version, they were created by the readers. Initially, the dial had other letters as well, which allowed other kinds of transformations. The title, Dial H for Hero, was derived from the Alfred Hitchcock film Dial M for Murder. I don't think I've ever seen that one. Well, Hitchcock was a great director. Very suspenseful. You know, stuff like The Birds, Rear Window, Vertigo, North by Northwest. I love that. That is a great one. Okay, enough about that. And we'll talk a little bit more later. So, now we can join these kids in their adventures in Dial H for Hero. Here you get to see this better view of this cover, which was drawn by Ross Andrew, inked by Dick Giordano. Adventure Comics. Adventure Comics was a good title. It ran for a long, long time, and it would feature various characters that they'd have a run. If they started faltering, they'd get rid of them and bring in another one. And So that's why they have Dial H for Hero. It had Supergirl for a while, Superboy, and Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes, Legion of Superheroes. Others I can't think of right now. A whole host of leads. And of course, it was originally conceived as an anthology. And here at this point, it still kind of was. Sometimes they would have a lead story and then a backup featuring a different character. And here on this cover, it's split, but the two images come from the lead story featuring the respective heroes. Avatar against the villain Crimson Star, and Kismet, Mistress of Fate, and she's up against the Radiator, and that's all in one story. This is written by Marv Wolfman. Yeah. Jim Mooney and Dave Wood originated the character. The original series debuted in House of Mystery 156 in 1966, running through 173 in 68. The original dialer was a teenager named Robbie Reed, living in fictitious Littleville, Colorado. I had to smile at that. I live in Colorado. And while there's no Littleville as far as I know, there is a Littleton. And I think the name Littleville was intended to be a play on Smallville, which of course was just based, on your conventional small town. And he found it in a cave while camping, and the origin of the dials were unknown. In the 1980s run, that started in Legion of Superheroes 273, I think is what it was, in 1981. Then it ran in an adventure starting with, from 479 to 490. See, and this is 487, so this is close to the end of the run, this particular run. And then it went to Superboy, from which I did not too long ago, and it showed the backup in that was Dial H for Hero. That was from 28 to 49. And this series had a pair of teens who found the dials, and they were different dials. These were shaped like a wristwatch, and they only had HERO on them. They found it in a haunted house in the New England, fictitious New England town of Fairfax. And the teens were Chris King and Vicki Grant. That's who are in this story. This series had readers send in character ideas to be used in the stories. And that's for both villains and superheroes. And I'm sure they probably just, the readers would just create a character, send it in, and they would use them as needed for whichever. And so it's Carmine Infantino, and this was at the time in the late 70s and 80s in that area, when personally I just did not care for Infantino's art that much. His style had evolved. Now I liked his stuff in the 50s and 60s, but it just had something that didn't appeal to me in this particular at this particular time. And of course he was a fine artist, don't get me wrong. And I'm not going to go through this story, but I just wanted to show you some of the stuff. This character here, the Crimson Star, is the villain of the piece, or one of the villains of the piece. And these characters, even the villains, they only appear in this storyline. They never come back. But here, even though I said I'm not thrilled with his work, I do like these three, especially these three panels right here. I think they had some really nice work in these teens' faces. And that kind of carries through. And I think some of the more appealing aspects might be from the inker's style. And I think it's primarily the figures in action with Infantino that I didn't care for here. It's a quick, fast-paced. It's a nice little story. It's not, it's not fantastic. It's by no means Marv Wolfman's good stuff. And it had some interpersonal stuff, like they had an argument there. The two characters tried to pair up as boyfriend and girlfriend and be a couple. And then they kind of broke up, and there's some jealousy going on here. And then we have a nice Red Tornado page here, which is an advertisement for Hostess, as they used to do so many of them back there, using so many of the comic characters, usually characters from the respective companies that were publishing the book. Although sometimes, like Gold Key, had some from either Marvel or DC characters, as well as some like Warner Brothers characters, cartoon characters. And it's kind of action-y packed. That's a figure that's familiar from Flash, the old Flash from the 60s. It has nice action and some thrilling aspects to it. And how the characters come back together, as if not as couples, at least they're back to talking one another, and then with their friendship and life, and then it comes to an end. Now, the second story is the one I'm going to go through in more detail. It's a shorter story, but this one is, as I said, is written by George Kashdan, who I think used to do a lot of the war comics. And drawn by Don Heck. And and Don Heck is someone I was never terribly thrilled with either, but I do really like his work here. And I think part of it is his style when inked by other people. Like, he did a lot of the Avengers and the like in the late 60s and 70s for Marvel. And I think it might just have been the inker, which was probably a lot of Vince Colletta, who made his style less appealing, because I like it here, and he's doing his own inking. So we start here in town, and this giant snake comes slithering through town, causing havoc. Oh, that's a great havoc scene right there. And of course the kids, Vicky and Chris, are at school, being let out of school. Stuff's going on, and they transform into, and here you can see Plant Mistress. It's created by Paul Pereira, age 9. Wind Rider, created by Mark Ramsey, age 12. Seeing then kids would love to get to see their character and their name in the comic book. And so they take off to see what they can do with the against this giant snake. And Wind Rider carries Plant Mistress. Excuse me. She's kind of like Poison Ivy, I guess. And she uses her powers to control plants and stuff, make them do things. And they wrap up the serpent. Had some nice work done there on that snake. And wrap it up, and then it's thrashing around, and then Wind Rider uses his power. He flies, but he's able to protect the people being in the cars being tossed around, and then they get the snake to out of town using the plants to carry it around and keep it bound up. And then when they get out of town, out of danger, the snake turns into a man. He's a Snake Man. The Snake Man was created by Chuck Spotty, age 16. Maybe it's supposed to be pronounced Spotty. I don't know. It looks like Spotty. And he's a scientist, a well-respected scientist that lives in the area. I take him back to his lab, and he says, I had this terrible accident. Something happened. I was concocting something with some snake venom or something like that, and it had an accident in which this stuff got in his body by accident, and it started transforming him into the snake being. And you see all this, the scaling and stuff is part of that. And he periodically turns into a snake, and giant snake, and he's kind of like a were snake. So they give him a chance to try to concoct a serum to change himself back, and so the kids change back themselves, and they go back home, and Chris's dad is a cop, and they said they're going on a hunt for that snake, and they're going to kill it. So no, you got to give him a chance. I don't think that's the right way, is to kill it, but he can't reveal that he is a superhero. Meanwhile, the snake guy, he's got it. He's found the catalyst that will change him back, and just then he starts to change again. Against his will. Meanwhile, his dad's cop going out there, and I like this figure right here. Sci-Fire was created by Daniel E. Carroll, age 23. See, that's when, because he gets out, and his dad's gonna go kill the snake. And he's got to help him. And meanwhile, the girl, she changes into Sea Mist, created by Dean Spezifero. And it becomes Sea Mist. And they go and confront the snake before the cops can get there. And he has this ability here to change his density, where he's nigh invulnerable. The snake tries to bite him, and he's kind of like the Vision in that respect. He becomes solid, extra hard, and they can't. That's what she said. And the snake can't bite him, and then tries to thrash him, and he's like as porous as vapor, and he just passes right through him. Meanwhile, Sea Mist the cops get there, and they're going to start blasting away at the snake. So Sea Mist creates a huge mist to obscure the snake so that they can't see to shoot it. But as Sea Mist has salt in it, and he discovered that sodium chloride was the catalyst needed to restore him, and the salt from the Sea Mist gets into his body, and he's changed back to his normal self. Thank you, and then everyone's baffled why the snake is gone, and it's for him, for the scientist to explain. And that is that. They're both fun little reads. I actually like the second one better. But I like that one and done. Not always, but usually with like subplots that's carried over sometimes, especially if it comes to fruition in a larger main story. But I think it's well crafted, well drawn on both parts. I just am not partial to Carmine Infantino's work at this point in his career. At this time he had just been doing Star Wars at Marvel, and I just did not like his work then. And that was the main reason why years later, when I got rid of most of my Star Wars comics, which I wish I hadn't because they're valuable, it was because I was not thrilled with his artwork on that title, and various other things. So that's it for Dial H for Hero. Please like, share, subscribe. Thank you for joining me. And remember, comics are art.